What's up, everyone? What is up? How's everybody doing this Monday after the 4th of July? What's up, Ray Rays? How's it going? It's the best Linux-based IT field you can get into. I mean, generally, that's going to be your network or server administration, whether it be cloud or on-prem. They may have teams that will have more Unix, Linux focus. Of course, there's cybersecurity too. What about like Debian focus? That's more company specific than field specific. And the reality is most enterprises are using Red Hat and Red Hat-like distributions. They're going to buy the operating system that is a support model, so you may find SLES, which is SUSE Linux Enterprise, or however it is. You may find Ubuntu, and you may find Red Hat and derivatives like, what is it, Amazon Linux, and stuff like that. What do you do with this path? I mean, that's just a cert path, but I think it's wrong to think about paths as in just like, oh, I need to just get these certs. Be intentional with the certs that you're trying to get in your job. That matters more than anything. Because at the end of the day, I think, I'm not saying that, you know, they don't have value, certs and degrees. I think people put way too much weight and emphasis on them than on the actual things you're learning, because here's the reality. Once you're in the field, most of the time, degrees and certs generally do not matter. You mean to study? I mean, you can study whatever you want. I have a couple of pen tester friends that have been in the field for several years, and they don't even have, OSCP and many other certs, but they're working in Fortune 500 companies and stuff like that. Thoughts on CheckMK? Not familiar with it. A lot of softwares out there. Thoughts on X1 Carbon in general? Been using a Gen 8 on Debian and it's smooth. Talking about the Lenovo's. I mean, the Lenovo's are pretty solid. I don't have much of a complaint with them. Now, as for today's stream, we do have some improvements we have to install in the U console. And as I say that, oh, there it is. So we have a new Wi-Fi card that we're going to be adding into the U console. We're not replacing the Wi-Fi card, we're adding to it, because currently 4 of those antennas, 2 Bluetooth and 2 Wi-Fi, are not even connected to anything. And that's what this AC1200 Wi-Fi card is going to do, is give us 2 Wi-Fi and 2 Bluetooth. I think these are IPEX connections. But anyway, yeah, so we'll be doing that. And then we'll be upgrading the battery tray, because we have this upgraded battery tray that I've already pre-fitted with an NVMe that I had laying around. So I'm going to give it 256 gigabytes of NVMe storage on this little U console. What's the phone for privacy that's not the Librem 5? That's currently buying a Pixel phone and then installing Graphene OS on it. You can also wait until Motorola releases their, you know, pretty much confirmed Graphene OS phones. Motorola is going to be releasing phones with them designed for it. That was announced at CES, I think, last year. Thoughts on the Purism Librem 5? It's overpriced and overhyped. I have it. I tried it for a month. The fact that it's still in a drawer should tell you everything. It's underpowered and overpriced for what it is. The concept is decent, and I do like the fact that you can expand it into like a full laptop, but you only have this IMX8M Plus CPU in here, which I have the same thing in my MNT Pocket Reform laptop, and that laptop is not as fast as I'd like it to be, so I'm upgrading the CPU in there, but the CPU in here is not really that upgradable. Well, technically it is, but you have to get someone that has a CPU package that, you know, will work for this guy. Yeah, it's just one of those, like, I like the Purism Librem laptop. I have the Librem 14. I will not probably be buying the Librem 16, and instead I'll probably be buying a laptop from a European company called Nova Custom that is certified to do the same things. The reason being is I don't want a 16-inch laptop. That's primarily it. I'd buy it from Purism again. I know some people have had some issues with them, but the phone, I think, was a little bit overhyped. The laptop they have, I think, was decent. But I'm gonna probably end up going with Nova Custom, get a laptop from them that does all those things with core boot and, you know, Desharo core boot and heads. So I can have the USB, what do they call it? The Nitro key. So that way it can check the firmware if it's signed and the operating system to see if it's been tampered with. My company doesn't have a sec team, so I've been working on SC200 since no one actually looks at MS Defender. I mean, Microsoft Defender's alright. I mean, I don't have any CrowdStrike certs, and I manage CrowdStrike. Just haven't gotten around to it. Don't really care. I want certificates. I just want to study the content so I can make continuous progress instead of rather than studying haphazardly. Well, once you get in the field more, that happens more naturally too. Alright, so let's open up this guy. So first we're going to take our SDR antenna off. Thoughts on Lua Lang? I haven't really done Lua. My Tangara little device, the Tangara little MP3 player I use, supposedly it can take Lua, or it is in Lua for its instructions, but I haven't gotten around to it. What is that? That's my little computer I use for radio experimentation we're upgrading. Alright, let's see. Get the right screwdriver ahead. Okay. And I think you are... Yeah, that looks about right. Nope. One smaller. And I will say this, Wera has the best tools that I've ever gotten. Wera and Weha is the two best tool companies in my opinion. Should you agree with the path or should it be changed? Well, the thing is, you can learn a lot of that stuff without actually going for the path of certificates. The thing about certifications is it doesn't necessarily mean that you've learned anything. It means you've learned enough, even in that short period of time, possibly just to vomit knowledge on a paper. You can learn a lot of the stuff there and go grab the study materials and just study that, and then grab the concepts if that's really all what you're after. Alright, let's open up this guy. So we got a Wi-Fi upgrade And then we got an NVMe upgrade, because this doesn't have an NVMe in the
Sentinel is now chilling in the lab.
Thank you for the follow. I do not know how to say your name, and apparently neither did my TTS. So, hello there, person. Alright. Alright, so the thermal pad is going to get stuck here. There we go. Cool, thermal pad's there. So I don't have to worry about anything. So if you're wondering what powers this, if you haven't seen this already, it's a Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4. So it's essentially a Raspberry Pi 4. I am going to upgrade this later on to a Raspberry Pi 5, but it's not a priority thing. So the upgrades we're going to be doing is we already upgraded this daughter board over here, and it has this little USB slot. Well, that USB slot is literally for the Wi-Fi card we're going to be adding. And then I'm going to be replacing this battery tray down here, because as you can see, it's literally just a battery tray. So the new battery tray has an NVMe slot, as well as some additional safeties. So it even has a detection here. If you put the 18650 cells in backwards, it will light up and prevent it from causing issues, where in the other one, it'll just get really warm. This is also pre-set up for lithium polymer. So if I wanted to, I could unsolder the battery pack here. I could buy the lithium polymer version and then switch over. I did see some packs that I could, you know, probably play with later. But then this adds an NVMe slot, and how this gets an NVMe PCI Express is there is a ribbon cable. And now I'm curious where that ribbon is gonna go. Come to think of it. Because I was given this little guy, and the only thing it seems to connect to is here. So I'm curious if it's on the other side. Oh well. We will figure that out, I guess. Hold on, I'm gonna look up the the hell? Somebody just having their bot like freak out in the chat. Okay, so I'm curious here if I can get a screenshot of the U-Console motherboard to get an idea. Oh, you had it on your clipboard? That's kind of funny. 2, 4, 5. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. How many screws are there? So let's see. We have the U-Console over here. And this is the device. I'm just trying to see the board. Okay, that is their adapter board. And that's a power port. Wait, what? Oh, that's a different design. Is it? Huh? No, that's definitely the daughter board there. Interesting. So there is the SD card is over there. An audio. Okay, that is definitely. So I'm a little confused then as to how this board goes in. Hacker Gadgets. Was it Hacker Gadgets I got this from? Yes, it was. Okay, because the Wi-Fi card is pretty straightforward. This is the thing that I'm a little bit confused about. Okay, do they have any instructions here? Okay, yeah. So there's only a power section here, but I'm curious as to how the hell that data comes about. Wait. Oh, there is something different with my version of the board. Yeah, there is something different with my board version. Looking at this. Hold up. Oh wait, that's the compute module 5. So I'm curious, is it under the daughter board here? No, the daughter board's blank. Okay, yeah, something's not adding up. Am I gonna have to add another part? Yeah, because there's... Okay, it's the daughter board that's different here. Curious. Yep. I have to order their adapter board. Once again, this really needs to be frickin' documented. Nowhere in here did they make it clear that I'm gonna need to get this adapter board when I get this. Until you read this little small note here. So we'll at least get the Wi-Fi upgraded today. That's not an issue. Give me 1 second here before I forget. I am going to quickly just put that in my list for later. Is it possible to make over $500K a year in cybersecurity? If you're a chief information security officer, maybe, but you won't really be in many technical roles, unfortunately, when doing that. That's just how it is. Okay, so I do have to order the adapter board. It's not a big deal. The annoying part is I have to pay again for shipping on that. And hopefully that'll make it in time before I head out to DEFCON. But yeah. So, we need the adapter board, but we can at least upgrade the Wi-Fi. It's annoying as shit. So, the good news is, functionally, I'll be achieving everything I want to do anyway with the U console as it is. That upgrade was merely just going to be for faster NVMe storage, so I didn't have to depend on an SD card, and then I could look at getting entirely off of SD as a whole, maybe move the operating system to the NVMe. Alright, now where? Ah, there it is. Looking for the Wi-Fi card. So we'll put this in a baggie for now. And then we need to route our antennas. We've got 7 of them. Oh, okay. I forgot I left that one cable in there intentionally. Okay. So... let me get this cable. So the less you work... yeah, unfortunately that's... kind of the way it goes. Alright, let's see. Oh, I know what I should do. I should take this antenna over here, this cable, and then... I was like, I know I do not have that many, and I remembered I left one intentionally in there. Okay, so that's a Wi-Fi. That'd be LoRa, that'd be GPS, that'd be Bluetooth. So what the hell antenna is going here? Oh, that's just the... okay, never mind. That's just the cell modem. Okay, so I can reuse one of the cables here. Alright, we're going to take the batteries out. Okay, so the bottom antenna connector here is not actually going to be used by the Pi. I just put it down there, so it would be free. So the GPS antenna does need to go back, and I goofed on that. This is why I should leave sticky notes for myself when I open the boxes. And by the way, if you're wondering, we're gonna have plenty more hardware to tinker with as the weeks go by. Because we have to get ready for DEFCON. Okay. Oh, and I did happen to get some pants that I can't wait to wear for some of the parties. Kind of like a 90s vibe going on for what I got. Some stuff that I really wanted as a kid. Alright, so this antenna, just to confirm, is going to Bluetooth. Okay, cool. Which means we're going to need another antenna to go right through this little hole at the top. This is going to get harder as we get more antennas packed through. Jenko jeans? Not Jenkos. They're kind of like the goth raver equivalents of Jenko in a way. Kind of like industrial goth. Trip, New York. Can't forget the 30-inch flare. Yeah, like these have the chains and everything. I'll have to show them next stream. I got 2 pairs. The Jenkos, the issue that I had with them was, well, I don't know. They just kind of felt way overpriced, even though the pants I got were not cheap either. But also, like, I don't know. They just kind of seem like very plain compared to what I wanted to get. Best way to begin learning? Tinker. That's what I do with most of my stuff. I like to tinker. You know what? I'm gonna replace all 4 of these. Okay. How do you feel about Teslas? Overpriced, overhyped, and I've said that long before Elon got any hate for the political things he's, said, before anyone goes about. I've always felt like Teslas are just overhyped. And as I said, overpriced. He didn't even make them. He had to sue to be called a founder. Alright, hold on. Let's get this antenna through. Sup, Duck the Musician. So what kind of musician are you? Is it a dodgeball musician? Dog, Dutch, dip, dive, and dodge. I don't know. How's your day going? Hope it's alright. Okay, come on. This is like some of the most tedious shit. Trying to get the, cables hooked through the way I want. There we go. What's your thought on R shenanigans? Well, I don't really pay much attention to Arch users. I like to be around people that touch grass and shower. I'm kidding. I mean, unfortunately, those are things that are going to happen in open source communities because there is the potential that you can, have an abandoned project that people can take over. If that's the stuff you're talking about, where there's, people been popping up with malware and stuff. Okay. So now we've got 2 Bluetooth connections. So BT0 and BT1. I guess it doesn't really matter which antenna I put them on. That's antenna 0. And that is antenna 1. All right. Got 2 more antennas to add. These are the Wi-Fi antennas this time. The Wi-Fi. You ordered something like that on Alibaba? What, this? You may have. I mean, you can find these on Alibaba and stuff. It is an open source and open spec design. Alright, that's one antenna through the hole. Let's get the other antenna. Alright, let's pop these into the Wi-Fi card. Alright, that's Wi-Fi 0. And now for the final antenna wire. There we go. All right, let's route these down. We're gonna turn these, I guess, just a little bit. I was being a little bit taut. Here, I'll plug this card in for now, so I don't have it flapping around. All right, I think it's secured in. I'll have to figure out the orientation of the wires in a sec. Alright, so now we've just got these 2 antennas here. I'm gonna buy much better antennas. These are just some cheapies that came with it. They're alright, but I definitely can get some better Wi-Fi antennas and everything. How did I study? Getting machines, tinkering, and asking myself questions like, wow, how does this work that way, and diving deeper and making labs of different ideas, and then learning new things in the field when I was working at an MSP. So then I would take those ideas that I maybe couldn't go further and develop while I was at the day job, because the client doesn't want to pay for X, Y, and Z hardware or software for whatever reason. I can then, you know, pick it up myself, and I'd get second-hand used computers. The big issue a lot of people have is they always think they need brand new and latest and greatest, but the honest truth is when it comes to a lot of technology, you don't need the latest and greatest for just about most tasks, especially in home labbing. You can use some old hardware, breathe new life into it, and get a whole bunch more value out of it in a different way. Just because you labbed some things. There we go. And one last IPEX connector. Can't figure out if these are IPEX or U.FL. I've never really paid too much attention to the difference of the connectors when it comes to small devices like this, because I don't deal it. Oh, motherfucker. Oh, come on. The hardest part with these connectors is because they're not really made to be removed. They're also really not made to be easily just installed. It's the complete irony of mobile electronics. Damn it. It's always the last one that is always the most annoying one, isn't it? What do you think about job hugging? You're talking to the wrong person. I went out and got myself a new job and a new promotion because my last job thought that I wasn't gonna up and leave them. The problem is that employers are kind of trying to bank on the fact that employees are just thankful to have a job right now. They're trying to get the power back that they lost from the pandemic when a lot of us were finally able to compete for better quality of life, you know. There we go. Cool. Alright, so that's all 7 antennas inside. Now I'm just trying to get them routed around these batteries over here. Try to make it a little bit cleaner. I'll show you the end result once I'm done. Alright, let me see. Can I... Nope. I gotta turn that. There we go. Oh, come on. For someone on the fence about making the leap into IT due to a pay cut, can it be worth the effort? It can be if, you know, this is the kind of field you enjoy for the kind of work you're trying to do here. But the thing I tell people is that IT and cybersecurity are not necessarily the kind of jobs where you can have the luxury always of just 9 to 5 and then F off. You know what I mean? That is the unfortunate reality, is you may find yourself in on-call positions. You may find yourself that you're going to have to continually studying and educating yourself on things where you're going to have to devote some time outside of work hours to keep up on your craft. That's just how it is with you know, a lot of professional fields, not just in tech. I mean, doctors, lawyers, they do this as well. A lot of people that have like professional careers. Okay, so that's routed that way. I wonder if I can sandwich some more wires down that way. I mean, it's kind of working. All right, that should do for now. So let's get this bitch wrapped back up. And we want it wrapped underneath the daughter board over here. And then we're gonna pack that guy up over there. Alright, that should do. I'm not gonna fight it to be perfect because it's not ever going to be perfect. And it's gonna be hidden underneath this anyway. Perfect. Alright, let's get the screws down. IT is more profession of a passion than a simple job. Yep. And a lot of people get upset when I say that, and they're like, well, what if we have, you know, a family and everything? And I'm like, well, that just unfortunately gets factored into it. You go talk to like pretty much anyone in this field, they'll tell you the same thing. Yeah, you can have some jobs or positions that'll give you certain privileges or luxuries that others won't. But I guess that's true just about anyone and their job. Oh, come on, you bastard. There we go. Accidentally clicked away from my tab. Alright. I did a year of community college for IT, enjoyed what I learned. I'm now the IT guy to friends. Yeah, unfortunately that's how it goes. Oh, mother. I did not just do that. Thank God I just cleaned this place. So I should be able to see where a simple screw fell. Yep, there it is. I need to get a magnetizer, or, well, I need to find where my magnetizer is so I can magnetize my bits. I forget that this set is not magnetized. A lot of people don't know you can do that. You can actually magnetize and demagnetize your own tools. Wait, is this a short screw? No, that's a long screw. So, what I may need to do, back that out slightly. And then what we're gonna do, because the issue is it's not lining up, we're gonna do a star pattern, which should secure it in the right place that I need it to be. Yep, this is starting to work like I need it. And then that should mean that the screw should line up just like so. Now we've got the last 3 screws over here. Put back on the stand. I definitely have to say this design choice of the stand was, well, a choice. Forgot to tighten back that screw when we loosened it up so we could turn that piece. Alright, come on. And then we'll turn this on in a second. Once we get these screws in. And we should be able to do an LS USB. Looking to learn Python from the ground up. Any recommendation that kind of dumb it down a little? Give yourself little tiny projects to build it. And then what you can do these days is you can go use Claude or something to help you make it and ask it along the way, how do you do this, how do you do that? Now, at the same time, it's not always going to be perfect and it's going to make mistakes once in a while. So that'll give you some ability to, you know, do some debugging and troubleshooting. Alright. So, LS USB. MediaTek wireless device. Oh, cool. Let me see. Edit connections. Wi-Fi. Okay, let's see. IPv6 now. I'm trying to see if it will show up now, because I do have a MediaTek wireless LSPCI. No, thank you for the follow, Jeff. How's it going? So I'm curious, because I didn't double check this. AC 1200 Wi-Fi adapter Linux for Linux kernels, yada yada yada. Wait, so hold on. Hacker gadgets. Let me see if they have any notes here. A MediaTek MT7921 AUN. Okay. Let's see. On Linux, LS USB. Okay, so hold on. We can do a D message and see if we have. Yo, I think have it. Yeah, I think so. D message. Where's the pipe command? There's the pipe character. Grep dash I, and what is this chip called? An MT7921. Yep, it sees it. So we officially have all antennas now activated, which means I should be able to do things like, I need to get like Kismet and all that other stuff installed. Because the second Wi-Fi is in monitor mode, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because the built-in oh, here we are. I should have just seen this. It's a little bit grayed out in this GUI, but if you look, you can actually see there's two different Wi-Fi cards here showing different networks. So, yeah. But it shows right here, Broadcom, Bravo Charlie Mike 43438 combo, which is the one built into the Raspberry Pi, and a MediaTek Wi-Fi. So now I have two Wi-Fi cards in here. So I have a primary and a secondary, so I can actually have this attached to a Wi-Fi network, and while I'm poking at that network, have that network sending data out or do anything like that. Can you work as a penetration tester without having a degree? Yeah. One of my good buddies that I'll be hanging out with at DEFCON this year, they don't even have a high school diploma. And they're a penetration tester. Getting paid over 100K. It can be done, but he also has skills, so keep that in mind. Why Pop OS? Because I like it, and it's been simple and stable for a few years. I'm waiting for Pop OS 2604. When you start to study cybersecurity? I kind of was always tinkering with cybersecurity, I guess you could say. Alright, Kismet install. Oh, I could just do that. Yeah, duh. I keep forgetting the screen's not touchscreen. Alright, sudo apt update. Alright, sudo apt install. And do we have it in the repo for Kismet? No, we do not. Kismet Raspberry Pi. I want to get Kismet set up for war driving. That's one of the reasons why I got this. So... oh, that's it? I have to install the PPA, I guess. Alright, so let's go on this device over here. And open up Firefox. It's better for pen testing, Kali or Parrot Linux. Technically, they're both the same. That's just the tools you're using. You're not really using the operating system. You're using the tools. But Kali is not meant to be daily driven. Parrot is. That's the main difference between the two. Never rooted for a team like I am rooting for Belgium right now. What's this about? Best way to buy some Bitcoin without KYC? You have to find someone that has Bitcoin or whatever. That'll do it on a one-to-one basis, or a Bitcoin ATM. But a lot of that's getting fewer and far between. What was I doing? Oh, Kismet Pi 4. What's up, Kilobyte? Okay, so we've got packages over here. And... let's update the install key. And we'll paste that into here. Okay, Kali, Debian Bookworm. Oh, what is this? I think this is Trixie. No, Ubuntu Bionic. Okay. Those are the Ubuntus. They even have it for 1804 still? Huh. So we'll just copy and paste the command over there to install the repo. Done this a million times. Didn't copy over right. What the shit? All right. Control C that. And then there we go. Now it should be installing Kismet, which is what we are probably going to want. among others. Yep, there we go. Now it's grabbing the packages. That's the dongle of all dongles. You're a dongle. Alright. Should Kismet be installed with SUID root helpers? Yes. Do you mentor? Not necessarily, but you can go to the Discord community or Matrix communities that I have. The links are in bio. We have a great community. You're more than welcome to join. Getting ready to take my Marketing 300 Exam 1. Not bad, but the Finance 300 is going to be my downfall. I didn't have to take any of that when I went to school. But, yeah. Alright, let's see. Now, system tools, sound and video, programming. Okay, where is it? I would have thought that it would have installed here. But, okay. Let's just run Kismet. Okay. So now, local host, what is it? Port 2501? Boom! Kismet interface. Alright, that should let us... It needs us to set up a login. Alright. Alrighty, we got our login made. You should configure your settings preferences. Okay, let's see. Ooh, this can do a lot. No plugins loaded. GPS status. Login. Oh, there's an API we can run with this, so I could even like have this controlled remotely. Huh. Yeah, I can have it highlight additional things. Ooh, it's got ADSB and a bunch of other stuff. This is nice. Alright, let's see. I probably am gonna have to configure the actual adapters here. Yeah, no plugins. Could not open system plugin. No HTTPD directory. I'm reading the errors that it has. Okay, so it doesn't see... Oh, hold up. Oh, you can do an ADSB straight out of this. That's nice. So I guess the next step that I have is... Oh, they have data sources that you can set up? Yeah, I'm gonna need to play with this for sure. Okay. So that's interesting. I'll probably connect this in and SSH into this device and then set it up that way. There's big money in this field. Has 15 years of experience. I mean, there can be. I just don't want to go for the Chief Information Security Officer route because I feel like I'd be sitting around being more of the problem than the solution. Okay. So, this is upgraded. We have a new Wi-Fi card in here. So now we have 2 Wi-Fi cards. All 8 antennas here now are active. And I know the GPS and everything else has been working, so now I just got to sit around and play with this some more, and I got to put some sensitive info in that I don't want to show on screen when setting that up, so. Hooray. Oh, and someone just subscribed and the alert didn't go off? What the hell? Oh, I see what happened. Apparently, Stream Elements was not logged in. Whoa. Hold on, let me see. Stream Elements. If I go into... Where was it? Docs. Custom browser docs. Let me copy and paste that. Okay, so we got that copied. And we'll apply that. Nope. Okay, hold on. So now I got to... SE activity. Okay, yeah, that should have gone off. That's weird. Weird. Oh well, I don't know. But yeah, thank you for the sub. Appreciate that. Sapphire Pilot. Alright. So we got our device set up. I do need to get the Raspberry Pi adapter board upgrade, and then I'll be able to get the NVMe working on that, and then I'll have a nice amount of storage to be able to tinker with. The reason why I want to get the NVMe is I was like, hey, I need something for logs and everything. And also if I get it a little bit better, then yeah. Alright, let's see what my mods have sent me for the fresh hell for me to review in content. So, apparently Tesla's electric semi had its first fatal crash. I mean, it's bound to happen sooner or later, but how many Tesla semis are actually out there? Because I don't hear of too many. I know I certainly have not seen any of them in the wild. Of course, I won't be able to read more than this. According to reports, 10-ton Tesla truck slammed into a small vintage Volkswagen Beetle at an intersection on US 50 in Dayton, Nevada. at 7:20 a.m. local time. Oof, most of them died. You know, I've heard of Punch Buggy, that game, but did Elon Musk have his developers intentionally program in Punch Buggy that when it sees a Volkswagen Bug, it punches it? I don't know. That's unfortunate that this has happened. I'm sure that there's going to be more information that comes out as this is looked into more and more. Alright, now let's see what Vampire sent me. I let Jarvis run my 3D printer. Don't let AI run your 3D printer.
Jarvis, take that bracket you built to hold my helmet and make it real. He designed this, stress tested it for 15 pounds, and now he's about to build it himself.
Sliced and holding about an hour 12. Say send it when you're satisfied, sir.
Send it over.
I mean, I guess it wouldn't be too hard to get an AI with a Jarvis voice at this point.
Jarvis can build real things now. That's a bracket today, but you already know what's coming. Follow to see.
It's not really like Jarvis in the way like you would think. It's really just probably another LLM that he slapped on it. Alright, let's see what's next.
Did you know that you can turn your old video games into a streaming platform?
No.
Grab a game. I'm going to use Medieval. Don't worry, this works for most console generations. So now take your game, put it in your disk drive.
Right.
Use a program like ImageBurn to make a copy of your game. I have a full tutorial on this linked in my playlist below. So now that we have our game file on our computer, you're going to need the correct emulator for your game based on what platform it was made for. For PlayStation 1, use DuckStation. So now that that's downloaded and installed, let's build this streaming platform. You're going to want to download a program called Sunshine. And if you follow that link and scroll way down, you actually get tech specs and minimum system requirements. But look for the big donut and click download. Go all the way to the bottom of the page and click the right download for your system and install. And now in the bottom right hand corner of our computer, I'm going to find my little icon, right click it and click open. And now we're going to make our account.
It's only going to have that icon if you're on Windows. If you're doing a Linux box, obviously, you're not really going to have that same GUI if you have a GUI at all.
Once that's made, you'll get a pop-up and you'll be asked to sign in.
Best resources to learn to become elite, not average script kiddo. Just work your way through IT and cybersecurity and then home lab and upskill your stuff instead of just grabbing random stuff off the internet and not understanding how it works. It's basically what it comes down to. It's a process. It's a marathon, not a race.
Once you get signed in, this part's done. So now let's hop over to another computer, like this old Alienware that I just fixed, so we can install the other half of our software. And just as a quick note, you can use just about any computer, laptop, phone, or tablet for this other half. So now let's get the other half.
Because the server's probably doing all the processing.
And if you click the link I showed, you can actually download based on your operating system. Since I'm on PC, I'll be using Moonlight QT. And with the right one downloaded, let's get it installed. Then we will have to restart our computer. Hey look, there's me with a mullet. Now let's open up Moonlight. And it's searching for compatible hosts. And once it finds it, click on the host you'd like to connect to. Then you'll have to enter the provided PIN number on the new device on the host PC, so that way they can talk to each other. And now you can see that little lock is gone. So from here, I can go to Steam or I can access the desktop. And now we'll have access to our emulators, and then we can open up our game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is pretty cool. But I think that's going to do it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
That's kind of interesting. I don't know why I would want to do that for my lab, because most likely if I'm going to be doing gaming, I'm going to put it on the machine to be gamed on. But if I had, like, multiple kids in the house, that'd actually make really good sense.
Did you guys see Discord released a cuck update?
A what?
Did you guys see this? It's kind of crazy. They're introducing this thing called, like, living room, where you can, like, actually sit in specific little scenes. And, of course, the image they chose was just a fucking cuck chair, dude. So I tweeted about it.
Oh, I don't know how I like that.
If they get their way, this will be the straight up end of an era. It looks like burner phones could be going away in the US after the FCC have proposed the need to gather relevant information from anyone using a cellular line regardless of the phone plan.
See, that's bullshit because there are so many people that don't have IDs for legitimate reasons, or they're actually getting their IDs controlled. Like in the case of domestic violence victims, often you may find the case that they don't have access to their own papers because their abuser knows that's a form of control. So if they can't have access to the basic legal documents in some cases, then they can't have the means to leave. And I don't really see how there's going to be any benefit overall to requiring every cell phone have an ID, especially when we're going to need situations of anonymity for reporting crimes and other things.
That carriers would have to at least
Sup, VTuber Nero, how's it going?
ID number and an alternative phone number before signing up a new person to their...
An alternative phone number. But what if you're signing up for your new phone? You won't have an alternative phone number. This would be your new phone.
Services, effectively eliminating the humble burner. According to the FCC, this should deter robocalling scammers while also making it easier to identify groups that still go through with it. But the counter argument from the National Network to End Domestic Violence is that this could make it more difficult.
I literally called this out for domestic violence victims, didn't I? This is no bueno. I can understand the argument for robocallers, I really can. But if the choice is privacy, no robocallers, I'm gonna keep my privacy.
In the long run, for individuals trying to leave dangerous relationships, since it's common practice to somehow get access to a secret communication device to find help.
I basically said that. What's this? You know, I hate that TikTok has this one flaw I notice. It has issues with Florp from time to time, I noticed. But it doesn't with Firefox, even though it's a fork.
Engineer rebuilt
it's only TikTok.
Into 2.5 kilobytes. What is going on?
Wait, what? Hold on.
A former Microsoft engineer rebuilt Notepad into 2.5 kilobytes. What is going on? Notepad used to be the simplest program on Windows. It was a blank box. You would type in it, you'd save, and that was literally it. And then Microsoft crammed in tabs, spell check, a Microsoft account login, and Copilot, an AI in a text app.
No shit though, I did like the fact that they did update the text editor to have tabs, and I would like there to be some syntax coloring, like Notepad++, but yeah, I don't understand the Copilot and Microsoft login.
Which immediately turned into a security hole, so Dave Plummer, who is legendary, by the way, I love his channel, the guy who built the original Windows Task Manager, said enough is enough and rebuilt Notepad himself. No AI, no account, no bloat, literally 2.5 kilobytes. By the way, that's smaller than the icon that Microsoft uses for Notepad.
Wait, what?
A Microsoft veteran just proved the thing that Microsoft has spent years stuffing with features never needed a single one of them. And you know what? Here's the part that's actually useful. His version is free. It's on GitHub right now. And it opens the instant that you tap it. But if you'd rather keep the normal Notepad, you can turn off the AI yourself. Microsoft went and buried the setting after the backlash, but it is in there. Because nothing that you type in a plain text box needs a chat bot reading over your shoulder. A former...
Yeah. Alright. And what's the next one? Oh yeah, we had an update about the open printer, because I know this was the thing that a lot of people were going insane about. This went viral, I think, not just on Instagram, but also my TikTok when I first talked about this and I clipped the video. So they have a progress update. There is progress being made. Because people are like, oh, this is never gonna happen, and then you had a bunch of tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists, and not in the DEFCON tinfoil hat competition way, which is a very fun competition. That's an actual thing, by the way. That's not a joke. Well, I mean, I'm joking about that. I mean, get the point. Anyway, but there are a lot of people that were like, oh, the Ink Mafia is gonna off them. And I'm like, bro, it ain't that serious. It's ink. But anyway, so they're saying they're working tirelessly on the finishing touches before we launch our crowd supply campaign at some point in the next few months. So they have no determined timeline on when it's going to be out, but they do say that we're now months away. The current prototype is performing wonderfully on all core functions. Printing, so they've got it working in both black and full color, and they can freely adjust the print dimensions, so any custom size is possible. As we've talked about, they have the rolls of printers. Their software, they've said they're focusing on integrating Wi-Fi and RJ45, you know, standard Ethernet connection, connectivity, and implementing advanced dithering algorithms to maximize print quality. So it seems like right now they're just in the optimization and, you know, efficiency improvements phase of this. And they're also working on their hardware for design for manufacturing and the bill of materials, which is essentially what you're going to need to have to start scaling this at large production. Now, they did have a note on pricing, as people were asking this a lot. Final pricing, they say, depends on a moving puzzle of production volumes, build of material costs, industrialization expenses, regulatory certifications, and final engineering developments, because they want to give an accurate, fair number. They're not announcing the final price until all of the factors are locked in, and they'll reveal the pricing when the campaign officially goes live. They did give another video of the prototype in action, so let's take a look at that. So it's definitely, you know, not the fastest thing, but I mean, it's still like early days, so I'm pretty sure they're going to have algorithmic improvements on all of this. It has a paper cutter? Holy shit, that's a nice feature. Like, I actually would rather have rolls of paper if I can have it cut it like that. Oh, hell yeah. So, they are making progress. So, you'll just have to be patient. I'm hoping that I will be using a printer like that in the next year or so, because when this is announced, I will definitely be making a purchase on this. Pre-order or not. This looks like a mini drafting printer I use at work. It also operates at the same speed. Maybe. I mean, you have to remember the open printer is a little bit different of an inkjet style. Although, I want to see if this holder can really work. Wait a minute. Is it printing? No. It's printing lengthwise. Wait, what? If that dropped down to the tray like it did there, then okay, that's really interesting. That's really cool. It's really cool to see, like, oh shit, yeah, it does. It prints it out widthwise instead of lengthwise. Oh, that's neat as hell. And it's totally open source when they have it done, down to the parts and the schematics and everything. So we'll be able to fix it ourselves. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. Those of you curious, their target specs are 600 DPI for black and white. Color is 1200 DPI. The printhead compatibility is HP63 or HP302. But you can also... they're refillable. they have a refillable option. So for those of you that are like, why would they use the HP ink cartridge? Because it's designed to be open source and use off-the-shelf parts. What's more off the shelf than, oh, if you actually want to go buy the cartridge instead of the refillable kit, you just go to the store and buy an HP ink cartridge. So, like, there were a lot of people that were freaking out about that in the Instagram and TikTok comments. Like, it amazes you just how, like, ridiculous people are when they're, like, freaking out about, why's it gotta be an HP ink cartridge? Well, because they're not about to go about and make an entirely new ink cartridge format just to be specific to that printer. So, yeah. No calling Lexmark at 6 a.m. because a plastic cog broke. Yeah, you could 3D print your own cogs, potentially. Or they're going to have the specs out, so it'll be like, buy this specific teeth amount, teeth in a cog this size with this mount, or whatever. But, yeah, so they're planning for USB-C, USB-A for mass storage, so they are planning for you to be able to print directly off of this guy. That looks like the USB-A port that's going to be there, and the C port is for you to connect to the printer. Looks like they have the little top here is 3D printed. You can kind of make out that there's a few 3D printed parts, but it'll be hard to tell until we get one of these in our hands. But I'm very much excited for this. Now, yeah, I'm going to have to see where I can locate 11-inch wide paper rolls, because I will gladly switch to European formats of paper if it means I stick to a roll, because I feel like a roll would actually be a more economical form of doing paper printing than reams of paper. I've never really liked the idea of reams of paper. I never have. Oh yeah, and it's going to have a Raspberry Pi 0W for the main processing board. Now, moving on. What's this? Okay. California law relating to three-dimensional printing blocking strategy. God damn it, California. What is with you politicians and your short bus way of thinking over in California and some other states? Oh, we don't want people 3D printing guns. We're not going to learn a fucking thing about how 3D printers actually work. We're just going to tell them that they need to have technology in there to block the ability for them to print anything that looks like a gun. Not realizing these printers are basically stupid. 3D printers are very dumb devices when you actually think about them. They're just done in a very clever way. 3D printers do not have full-on computers like we operate that can do a lot of these complex processing. A lot of them are operating on like Arduino ESP32 kind of systems, where they literally are doing one instruction at a time. So when it comes to 3D printers, you have this thing called G-code. Now, what is G-code? It's literally a sequential set of instructions and operations. It is literally just shooting M codes of this machine function here. Different M codes respond to different things on different 3D printers, and the G code itself is telling you the coordinates of things. So it'll say like X33, Y7, Z12, and it'll just move the head over to that. And then you then have another thing shot in at the same time for it to process the servo, the stepper motor that is processing the filament. It's literally just doing calculations one at a time, hundreds of times a second. That's all it's doing. It is not capable of doing AI processing or things like that. You would need a separate computer to do that processing, and that would make the 3D printers themselves way inordinately expensive. You know, like, the performance standards shall require that firearm blueprint detection algorithms have the capacity with a high degree of accuracy to do all of the following. Okay, well, I'm betting we're gonna read this and it's gonna be like straight up short bus, less than 70 IQ reasoning for this. Evaluate three-dimensional printing files, whether in the long form of STL files or other computer-aided design files or geometric code. Good God! These motherfuckers really don't know the fucking basics of what the shit they're trying to regulate. Because you could do, potentially, this STL processing at the computer when it's doing the slicing. That is theoretically possible. However, a lot of these applications are open source, so they're not going to actually just implement that. Or, a lot of the machines are not capable of doing that processing, so the manufacturers of said software, like maybe a Bamboo or something like that, would then have to have some cloud processing they'd have to invest in, and that's an expense that they're going to have to go through to do that. This makes 0 sense, just on point 1. Point 2, detect and identify any such files that can be used to program a three-dimensional printer to produce a firearm or a legal firearm part. Again! Less than 70 IQ, short bus took you to school level of thinking. I can 3D print a prop gun. Like cosplay. Okay? I can 3D print something for a cosplay prop, and I've done it. I've literally 3D printed a dummy version of a Glock in blue. The reason being was a few years ago, I needed to go buy some holsters and try the holsters out. So instead of, bringing my Glock out in the middle of the store and like shoving in holsters, which it's a gun store, I'm sure they would have not been like that, angry about. I thought, why don't I, bring a plastic blue version that anyone can see is basically a toy, but is anatomically correct and geometrically correct, so I could go around testing that. That would then qualify under this, because firearm parts, I can make the lower of a handgun, and I've seen it, where you have what looks like, mechanically correct 1911s, but are rubber band guns. I've seen them. So now they're like talking about to produce a firearm, rubber band guns, paintball gun accessories and parts. A lot of these things, this comes into question. Flag any disallowed files for print reduction by a software control process. Again, we're talking about a lot of people use open source software. I use Prusa Slicer. I need to get a new version of Prusa Slicer because I need to get back on my 3D printers. But I use Prusa Slicer. Prusa Slicer is 3D a 3D printer slicing software that is open source. They're not going to bake that in just because the government tells them to. They're going to tell them like, you just F off. These politicians do not know what the fuck they're doing. They don't talk to the experts in their field. And this is why this country is as fucked as it is. Instead of listening to medical experts, we are listening to politicians politicizing medical advice. Measles, mumps, and rubella is not a political discussion. A discussion about getting a vaccine is a scientific, not political discussion. And I don't even really entertain much of the discussion around the religious argument around it, because in my religion, you're supposed to do everything to preserve and prolong a human life. So you really want me to sit around here and think that God wants you to die because you just have to pray harder? But this goes into the problem here, is that we are listening to politicians on what we should do to solve the world when politicians themselves should be listening to the experts and then merely becoming the vessel for the legislation that the experts are asking for. This is why the country is as fucked as it is. We have politicians that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, trying to run around with solutions they think are going to work, but actually blow up in their face. The state assembly does not know anything about the STEM field. No, they do not. And it's kind of getting to the point where I've told my friends, like, look, I'm very far from this possibility, but if I ever get to the point where I could even, like, start entertaining the idea of retiring, I'm gonna fucking run for politics because they need some fucking STEM people in there. Because all you got are these fucking lawyers and activists that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground talking about all these grandstanding ideas on things. Like, do you know how many people going around talking about AI data centers actually ruin their own arguments to stop AI data centers because they don't even fucking learn the basics of things? Like the real facts of what's going on out there? Yes, I say that data centers are definitely being a little bit too, rampant with how many are being produced without the question of the sustainability and whether the communities want them. But they're making up such asinine arguments that when you are a person who is in IT and cybersecurity, you can look at them and basically say, without even looking it up, like, dude, you are an effing moron. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Just like the people that were, like, arguing around, you know, the Elon Musk data centers in space. Okay, yeah, you can, they're like, well, you know, you seem to think the argument is that you're only going to have, like, one satellite up for a data center. They're looking at sending hundreds, and I'm like, do you understand how that increases the complexity of everything we just talked about now? And you've actually now made a bigger argument against your own argument? This is the problem I have, is where you have these sycophants on every single side. You've got your evangelicals, you've got your anti-AI people, people so entrenched in their positions that they can't even see where the fucking sun is, because they won't be willing to look up. And they'd rather have their head straight up their ass, and if anything happens to challenge their opinion or their worldview, God forbid that ever actually, you know, change their mind. Because science, well, we know science has never discovered new things that have completely changed our entire way of perceiving the entire universe. Yeah, that's never happened. I'm being sarcastic here. Government trusting AI companies to create regulations about AI. Yeah, and I will tell you, what is it? Didn't, like, Trump, like, also put a moratorium for state regulations on AI for 10 years? And the irony is, the government now is, like, basically going around saying, Mythos is too dangerous. We need to get some more guardrails and regulations around this. And we're sitting here like, motherfucker, a lot of states saw this coming. You just decided to cut them off at the pass. Yeah. Basically, we are probably going to be able to read through this and find it worse and worse and worse. Like, holy shit. The performance standard should include both of the following. For firmware design guidance for how vendors are required to demonstrate that their technology will ensure a printer directs... They're actually specifying in here. At the firmware level. Oh, these motherfuckers, they really don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And you know what annoys me the most? This is California. California literally has Silicon Valley. You literally can call to the state Congress any of these leaders, and they can tell you how fucking much of a moron you are to even suggest this idea. And they're looking at self-attestation. So now they're looking at any business that produces or manufactures 3D-dimensional printers for sale or transfer in California will submit to the department of an attestation form and make each model printer they intend to sell. They now have to attest from the manufacturer. Oh, fucking hell. No, none of these printer companies are going to listen to this. Now you're killing the ability for a lot of children to get into STEM fields because you're a fucking moron that didn't want to go talk to a professional. And this is why we look at politicians like you are morons. Just because you use fancier, more flowery language that is a lot more politically correct does not, however, make you any smarter than the person that is less eloquent in their speech than, so just because I go around saying fuck and shit and all that other stuff doesn't make me any less intelligent than you are on this subject. In fact, I'm more qualified to talk about technology than most people in Congress, whether it's at the state levels or the federal levels. And most of the people here in chat, even the people that are just starting their careers out, are more qualified than these politicians. They don't want STEM engineers and STEM graduates. It makes them harder to do for them to do this garbage. Oh yeah, it's like Theo. You can buy the parts, but if you go over to this website, you'll flash official firmware that isn't beholden to laws. Pretty much. All right. California votes to ruin 3D printing right after voting against. Yeah, so we basically just went on a long enough rant about that. What's this? Microsoft forums. Car, you're gonna have to tell me what this forum was for. GitHub presents your code on a CD. It's no longer accepting stuff, but, okay. Oh yeah, we've watched her videos on YouTube. So what's this one?
Going after the baristas now.
Oh my god.
The description reads, the robots simply execute the craft flawlessly, cup after cup, without misspelling your name. That did not look flawless to me.
I didn't know flawless was giving you a cup of air.
And
No. That cup, the cup that the robot handed them, was the cup that Wonder Woman uses in her invisible jet.
Someone misspell my name, at least then I would be talking to an actual human. This is just another example of companies eliminating third places and human interaction. And I don't think most people even want this. I'm gonna be honest, if I walked into a business and saw all the employees had been replaced with a robot, I would walk back out.
Yeah, I kind of would do the same thing in many cases with restaurants. Now, there are some exceptions where I think the restaurants could be automated, but in most cases, I don't think it would work. Alright, what's this? Powerful WYSIWYG editor for making nomadnet-ready.mu pages using the Micron markup language. Ooh. So this is for Reticulum. If you're not familiar with what NomadNet is, think of it as an internet that doesn't need the internet. It can run on LoRa, so you can even have it run on like these little guys over here to relay connections around. It can run on Bluetooth, it can run on Wi-Fi, it can run on Ethernet, it can run on packet radio. It is a whole different networking stack, so it's not limited by the hardware that you're using. It's a mesh, it can be. Reticulum is probably the most sophisticated of the decentralized technologies. We'll get more and more into Reticulum. We played with it a little bit with my Hackers Teaching Hackers badge. Okay, so let's see. Next video we have is Stradris. What just happened in China will change history. So what's this? This will power everything.
For 50 years, nuclear energy was one of the West's ultimate marks of power. America split the atomic
Offline internet? Yeah, Nomadnet kind of is.
around it. Britain, Germany, Japan, everyone wanted a piece of that magic. Reactors were a symbol of who was ahead. That story is over. Right now, China has more nuclear reactors under construction than the rest of the world combined. In fact, half of every reactor on the planet is being built there.
Damn!
In France, the great nuclear revival is buried in paperwork, with the first new reactor not expected to start construction until 2038.
Good God!
The headline project is billions of a budget and years behind. And the US can't build anything new fast enough, so its big plan is to resurrect a dead reactor at 3 Mile Island, the site of the most infamous nuclear accident in the country's history. The most humiliating part here is that China is testing and scaling thorium reactors. Using research American scientists completed in the 1960s,
You know how we love our thorium molten salt reactors.
and abandoned. They left the blueprint on the shelf, and China turned it into one of the most strategic sources of cheap, reliable power on Earth. And that's where the point is. Cheap energy is the world game, because it decides who can afford to run the AI data centers and keep a country competitive. In this video, I'll tell you how China pulled this off and why it concerns pretty much anything you buy. That's the whole reason this channel exists, to show what's happening from the inside. I've been doing business in Asia for 26 years. If that's the kind of insight you've been looking for, subscribe. The numbers are hard to believe. China runs around 60 reactors today, which already taxes
Nuclear power is underrated and overhated. Oh yeah, definitely. And the irony is, and I've had this argument with a lot of environmentalists, is that if you want to actually save the environment, you have to include nuclear energy in your equation. There's no way around it. And nuclear energy, pound for pound, is the most efficient source that actually produces the least amount of waste. People just think of toxic waste, but when you look at the overall volume of toxic waste versus the overall waste as a whole that's put out by coal, a lot of it being actually burned away and sent up to our atmosphere, it's a lot less. In fact, I think, what is it they've said, like, you could fit all the nuclear waste that we've actually done in the past few years in, like, I think they said, like, the past few decades in, like, they said like a few shipping containers or something like that. I forgot the exact math. Ontario using deuterium reactors next to 50% of Canada's population because Toronto is so massive. Yeah.
Close to 40 reactors are under construction across the country right now, and the pace isn't slowing down either. Beijing has been approving around 10 new reactors a year since 2022, something no Western country has done since the 1970s. The plan from here is to reach 110 gigawatts of nuclear energy by 2030. That's what you need to send a DeLorean back to the future. If China can achieve its goal, it will make it the biggest producer of nuclear power on Earth. Funny, when you know that 10 years ago, China leaned on foreign technology to build them. Yes, things have changed.
Yeah, and that's what I keep telling people, is that we need to stop treating China as if they're the 1990s China. They're a whole different China.
Quickly, a reactor in China goes from empty ground to powering homes in about...
Some companies plan to create nuclear power plants to power data centers. They've thrown around that idea. I've heard it, but the issue is, as he even alluded to earlier on, the regulations around nuclear power plants are so insane. I hate to say this, but there is a case very much where regulations where you think they may make sense actually work against you. So there's a lot of regulations in nuclear energy that I know we can do away with. I'm not saying do away with everything. I'm saying let's be a little bit more sensible about what is realistic so we can lower the costs while still maintaining the, required safety standards.
5 to 7 years. The last 2 reactors the Americans finished at Plant Vogtle in Georgia took roughly 15 years each and came in at more than double the budget. So, in the time it takes the West to build a single reactor, China built 3 and builds each one cheaper. People assume there must be some trick to this, a shortcut on safety or a pile of stolen blueprints. Wrong. The answer isn't cheap labor or corners cut on safety. It comes down to one habit the West abandoned and China turned into a system. Build the same thing again and again on purpose. A Chinese plan isn't designed from a blank page each time. The country settled on a handful of standard reactor models, the most common one being the homegrown Hualong one, and now mass produces them in batches of 6 or 8 at a single site.
That makes total sense. I really don't understand why we do this thing in the USA. Like he basically said, every time it's from scratch. Find an efficient design, standardize on that. If we have other improvements, sure, we can, figure that out down the road in some prototype builds, but yeah.
Crew that finishes the first reactor shifts immediately to the second with everything already in their hands. The factory is making the parts next.
I know someone who partially wrote the safety standards. You'd have to be Trump-level smart just to even attempt to F it up. Yeah.
Never go cold. The regulators reviewing the design have seen it 20 times before, which makes the whole approval machine faster. Each reactor teaches the next one and the cost falls down the line. Basic economies of scales. China builds a reactor for somewhere around $3 billion. America's last 2 came in north of 15 billion each. The other half of the story is that the state simply decides it will happen, and the obstacles that block the Western project melt away. Land gets cleared. Money flows from the state banks without a decade of wrangling. China can also afford the occasional expensive failure in a way that will think a Western utility, because the bill lands on the state rather than on shareholders or bill payers. This isn't a model the West could copy even if he wanted to. And this is not a romantic defense of the Chinese model. The West has public debate, courts, local opposition, environmental reviews, and for good reasons. But those safeguards come with a cost. Time. So, yes, it's true, you get good at building reactors by building reactors. But it doesn't explain how the site that invented this entire technology ended up enabled to build it. The answer goes back to a single morning in 1979. A reactor at 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania partially melted down. Nobody was hurt, but the public never trusted nuclear power the same way again. In the decade that followed, America canceled 67 planned reactors. By the time cheap shale gas arrived in the 2000s, building nuclear made no financial sense at all, so why bother? Europe ran for the exit. Chernobyl in 1986 left a generation of Europeans truly afraid of the technology, and when Fukushima melted down in 2011, that fear hardened into policy. Germany.
And if I remember, all the issues they've had boiled down to it was either human operator error, it was, corruption, things like that. Like, I think Fukushima, they did things in ways that they shouldn't have done. I could be mistaken. But, yeah, like Chernobyl, we know that was a royal F-up of operation.
The industrial heart of Europe panicked and decided to shut every single reactor it had, finishing the job in 2023. Siemens, the company that built all 17 of those German plants, walked out of the nuclear business entirely. Italy had quit decades earlier. Belgium, Spain, Switzerland all line up for the door. It didn't lose its nuclear edge in some dramatic defeat. It talked itself out of the game, one nervous government at a time. And a skill you don't use for 35 years slowly dies. So when a Western country finally tries again, it's not really building a reactor, it's relearning the entire craft from scratch, on the job, with billions in borrowed money ticking all the time. France tried to build one new reactor at Flamanville, and the thing became a national joke. I know, I'm French. In 12 years, the bill climbed from 3 billion euros to over 13, before finally reaching the grid at the end of 2024. Britain fell down the same hole with Hinkley Point, promised at 18 billion pounds.
So let me get this straight. We had 4 or 5 decades of nuclear experience leading up to us talking ourselves out of nuclear energy. And then because in the 2 to 3 decades that followed, now we're basically starting at ground zero. And China's already ahead, using France's advice years ago to build their first reactor.
Cost has ballooned toward 50.
Yep.
The start date pushed back year after year until the company stopped giving firm dates altogether. Every delay landed straight on British energy bills. So that's the West. Now, why would China pour billions into the one idea everyone else gave up on? Especially when you realize that every country that tried thorium, the Americans, the French, the Indians, eventually walk away from it. Well, China imports around 70% of its oil, most of it arriving by sea, along shipping lanes the US Navy could choke off in a serious conflict. No need to explain the need for diversification here. Even uranium is a weak spot, since a single country, Kazakhstan, digs up 40% of the world's supply. For a government obsessed with not depending on anyone, that's a knife at the throat. Thorium fixes it, because China is sitting on an almost comic amount of the stuff. And this is the part that's almost too good. Thorium turns up inside monazite, the same ore you mine for rare earth metals. And China already controls most of the rare earths in the world. Mine in Inner Mongolia called Bayan Obo, they've spent decades digging up rare earths and tossing the thorium aside as a radioactive waste. That waste
really
holds enough thorium, by their own survey, to power the entire country for 60,000 years.
Jeez. They really could be self-sustaining for all their stuff. And the interesting thing about this is the things that China has going is the rare earth minerals are not just unique to China. It happens to be that the entire system to extract and process rare earth minerals is already built in China. But my understanding is that in America, we have the resources to extract and process thorium, but we would have to spend a few years to be able to get to that point for all the rare earth minerals. And my understanding is that that's already been underway, but it's going to take 10 to 15 years to build up that capacity and capability. And thorium, it just clicked with me, their fuel can come alongside that rare earth mineral processing, as you were saying, as radioactive waste. And then if America and the West in general then gets back on nuclear reactors with thorium molten salt reactors, we could actually look at the true electrification of the entire global grid in a few decades. To the point that fossil fuels effectively may not never be needed again in most cases. Because you could reasonably have cost-effective electric heat pumps for cooling and heat.
We're throwing away the fuel of the future and calling it garbage. Now, they're going to burn the garbage. That covers why China wants it. The how is the insult to the West. If you're getting value out of this, the kind of breakdown you don't get from the usual news, hit subscribe. I make these videos every week to share what I see from the inside. But enough about me. Thorium isn't easy. You can't just drop it in a normal reactor. You need the molten salt design to make it work, and that's exactly the machine American scientists built and proved back in the 1960s. Thorium wasn't abandoned because it was bad.
It was abandoned. Exactly, it was politics.
Governments wanted reactors that spat out plutonium for the arsenal, and uranium did
Trump is too busy, drill, baby, drill. Yeah, and that's the problem is, look, I'm not saying we need to stop drilling for oil immediately right now, today, okay? I'd like to get there. But it's not a sustainable model for American independence or any other country to be autonomous in their own energy production. It is not. Even if we were to take I think the estimates are, we could maybe do fossil fuels for 200-300 years, I think it was. Coal, maybe a few hundred years as well. But if we shifted the entire grid over to thorium molten salt reactors, you could literally have enough potential power there of clean energy for not just our lives, but our kids' lives, and our kids' kids' lives, and our kids' 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 lives.
That beautiful. By the time anyone cared about clean...
It apparently thinks trillionaires are everywhere and playing land investment ads. Wait, what? What did the commercial do?
Power, uranium had a 50-year head start. The entire industry was built around it, and nobody wanted to rebuild the whole thing. So the blueprints sat in a public archive for 60 years. The man who led China's thorium program spent years with his team, picking apart those declassified American documents, rebuilding the experiment, then pushing past it. Last year, they refueled a running thorium reactor without shutting it down.
Wow!
Nobody, including the people who invented the technology, had ever pulled off. And there's a bonus that makes it even better. A molten salt reactor doesn't need a coastline or a river to cool it. So China can plant this in the empty desert of its northwest, far from cities, on land nobody wants. Beautiful, right? A reactor running on recycled waste in the Gobi Desert is a great story. Good for them, but I know what you think. What does that change for you, sitting where you're sitting, running whatever you run? Honestly, more than almost anything else in the news this year, because everything you buy, build, or sell runs on electricity somewhere down the line. The price of that electricity decides who wins. Look at what factories actually pay. Industrial power in Europe costs roughly double than what it costs in the United States and around 50% more than in China. Put plainly, a factory in Germany can pay something like 20 cents for the electricity a Chinese competitor gets for 6. That gap shows up in the price of the steel, the chemicals, the batteries, the actual stuff coming off the line. Why do you think Made in Germany is dying?
And this is also why Made in America is dying. Because oil production is not a sustainable model for scalability of an economy. Not to the way that this could actually lead us to go down. And Donald Trump and all these other, politicians that are morons and want to kowtow to the oil companies don't realize it's a very short-sighted play that shoots yourself in the foot long term. Oil companies need to understand their current model is on borrowed time. And if anything, if I were an oil executive, I would be talking to my board about how your entire trust funds and everything are going to dry up if we don't pivot and change. China's going to be the capital and pioneer of nuclear technology. Yeah. And we have no one to blame but ourselves as a country for, once again, listening to dumb fuck politicians and activists that don't know what the hell they're doing instead of listening to the professionals. We can, look at, the issues that came across with, 3 Mile Island and everything. Look at how do we repeat those incidents from happening ever again and apply those lessons. The lesson shouldn't be throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because now what? Oh. I'm going to put it this way. If you go to an environmentalist and tell them, are you okay with these are your choices? You can either have, and we should show them the dimensions of geographically what would require this. A gigawatt factory in coal, a gigawatt factory in natural gas, a gigawatt factory in nuclear, a gigawatt factory in solar, or, so on and so forth. If you have to explain to them that the solar won't work in a lot of places, and to get that gigawatt, you're going to need to clear out probably a lot more land than the nuclear will. And at the same time, nuclear doesn't really bother the environment nearly as much as long as you don't F up your controls. It's how long before Mandarin becomes the world trade language. It's kind of already getting there. I've been hearing stories about that in Africa.
Company can run a tighter operation, pay its people less, automate everything, and still lose to a rival who simply plugs into a cheaper grid. Energy is the cost underneath all the other costs. Now, stretch that out 20 years. The world is about to pour an absurd amount of electricity into one thing, the data centers behind artificial intelligence, which eat power on a scale nobody planned for. Whoever can generate clean, steady, cheap electricity at massive volume gets to run the AI, build the factories, host the industries of the next era. Whoever can't will be renting that capacity from someone who can. China is building the cheap grid. Most of the West is rationing on the expensive, aging one and arguing about who pays to fix it. I spend my days helping entrepreneurs set up and run businesses across Asia, and the conversation has changed. A few years ago, people asked about taxes, incorporation, bank accounts, and suppliers. Now, more and more ask about infrastructure, where the ports work, where the grid is stable, where the supply chain does not collapse every time there is a shock.
We've actually had talks like this at work, too. At my new job, we've had talks about stuff like this, too. And that's actually been in consideration for when they think about where are they going to move their data. It's not necessarily just, oh, we'll put it, it's like, we have to think about all these factors.
That's the real prize sitting
and that's something I've noticed that's different than it was 10 years ago.
Underneath this whole nuclear story, the ability to power a civilization for less than the other guy for decades without asking anyone's permission. China didn't win this with some breakthrough the West couldn't match. There's no secret ingredient. The West could have done all of this. Of course, nobody in Paris or Washington wants to admit it out loud, because the comfortable story is that China cheated or stole. The question now is whether any of that is reversible. The US is talking a big game again, promising hundreds of new gigawatts by 2050. France and Britain swear the next rounds of builds will go better than the last. Maybe, but you don't rebuild 30 years of lost skills with a press release, and you can't compete on cost with a power grid that is already half finished, while your own project is still stuck in the planning phase. This is the kind of things I dig into every week, the stuff moving global business that most people spot years too late. If that's useful to you, subscribe. If you've watched this happen in your industry, the thing your part of the world gave up on and someone else ran risk, tell me about it in the comments. I read them. See you in the next video.
So here's the thing when it comes to, China and everything, because I know people have, talked about how China's going to be running the world and everything. There is one problem I do want to, point out here. Sorry, I don't know if you can see this on TikTok properly. So we're going to go to populationpyramid.net. So if you're not familiar with this is basically, the breakdown of each age bracket in the world. And this is like a healthy mix of what you want to see, because we're going to want more people to, grow over time. So as we can see, maybe in around 2100 or so, we might see population declines based on this chart over here worldwide, okay? Now, let's go into China's chart. Because of their one-child policy, it's still going to have effed up consequences for them for many, many years to come. Now, this could change over time, but that would require so many societal things to also change. And in China, just like in the West, there's a problem with young people wanting to have children. This is happening not just in the USA, but a lot of other countries. But the one-child policy, as we all know, it takes at least 2 children to replace your parents, so you need to have at least 2 kids. Well, a one child then meant you only had 1 child, and they disproportionately favored men, as I recall. So the problem is that they're seeing is China's population may be 1.4 billion now, but they're running into an issue where the population's actually starting to decline. And if the trend continues, China could have less than half of its population around 2100. So this is, like, while we're talking on one hand, China is making all these amazing scientific breakthroughs and could be leading the world in other ways, they're going to be running into a population crisis over time unless some major changes happen. And if you're wondering what the USA is at, we're not really in that much of a problem last I checked. Hold on. It is United States of America. So the United States, we're still on a healthy projection here. So we still got a healthy makeup over here. We're still expected for our population to rise that around when China's expected to have less than half of its population, the USA is expected to grow quite a bit, and how'd that be? Maybe 20% growth, I'd say, give or take. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. That's always something that I find that's interesting. But, yeah. Alright, continuing on. Alright, we got a Louis Rossman video. Jennifer Gibbons tells senators running Minecraft server is illegal. Oh my.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome to today's episode of How You're Getting Fucked. And I'm about to have an aneurysm, I'll be honest with you. I haven't watched this testimony yet, and I swore to myself that I was never going to listen to something that the Electronic Software Association said ever again for the rest of my life, because when they speak, they're the video game lobby, it makes me want to punch my screen. Not because they won by beating me with facts and logic and reason, not because they beat me because they're just so much better at basketball than I am. It's because they suck, they lie so hard, and somehow they manage to always win. I'm probably going to give myself an aneurysm watching this, but I'm going to allow you to have the aneurysm along with me. So let's go. I was in California on Tuesday for the 3D printer blocking bill, and I missed this, which was on Monday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to this, and I wish I did because...
Thank you, Chair and members. Jennifer Gibbons with the Entertainment Software Association. We are the trade association for the video game industry, and we are here to oppose this bill. The bill is trying to solve a problem that has not been demonstrated. It rests on two flawed premises. One, that consumers who purchase a license for a video game should have access to it indefinitely.
Yeah, we paid for a product. We should have the right to pay to use it as we see fit for as long as we see fit.
No other digital product is subject to that standard.
I'm gonna call bullshit. I work in IT and cybersecurity. There's a plethora of softwares that you get to use that license in perpetuity. We're not even like 1 minute. Well, we're a little over 1 minute in. We're in for a ride.
So here's...
Buckle up, fam. This is going to be a roller coaster.
The thing, technically what she said is actually right, and this is why it triggers me. Technically, other forms of digital media are not subject to that standard. You can very easily buy a movie or a television show from the PlayStation Store. You can literally have Sony tell you that as of September 1st...
Okay, in terms of that media, yes. But in terms of, IT and cybersecurity software, there's a lot of expectations of perpetual licenses in many cases.
Because Play has no limits, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Studio Canal content, and the content will be removed from your video library. They've removed movies and television shows from people's libraries after they purchased it. If we're talking about books and textbooks, you can very easily buy a lifetime license to a textbook that is not really a lifetime license. As I went over here, you can buy a lifetime license, $109.99, but then you have to scroll down all the way over here and click this little link that's hiding over there to figure out that is lifetime typically means 5 years of access. Lifetime typically means 5 years of access or download to a supported device. Keyword supported. Once the device is no longer supported, you can't open it. Now, they are correct because California has a false advertising law that says that you cannot sell something with the use sell, sold, or purchase if you have the ability to take it away from a customer. And what I did is I asked all of my subscribers if they would mass report these and send letters to the Attorney General. And after hundreds to thousands of you sent your letters to the Attorney General, you know what happened? Nothing! Fucking nothing! She's right! Why are video games this protected form of media when clearly that you can take away people's movies, you can take away their television, you can take away their books? Why shouldn't we be able to take away their games? She's right. That doesn't make it okay.
Music software and online services are not required to remain available forever, yet this bill would apply that obligation to video games. This is a significant change in policy that should be seriously considered. Second, the bill assumes that publishers are routinely taking games away from consumers without notice or compensation.
Yeah, they are!
Which just is not accurate.
Yeah, it is.
What? This is why I have a wiki. This is why consumerrights.wiki exists. And luckily, there is a Stop Killing Games wiki that goes over all this because I don't have this stuff on my wiki, but I will be mirroring it if the license allows. This is not a problem. Publishers are not taking games away from people for no reason. Thank you very much to the Stop Killing Games wiki at stopkillinggames.wiki.gg. Look at this list of games that are all dead. Look at this. There is an entire, I can hit page up and look at this. Look at all, everything that is in gray on the right is dead. Look at it. Look at it. Problem that doesn't exist.
The examples cited in the analysis don't support the claim.
Driver Los Angeles.
Consumers received.
Yep, they took it away from thousands of gamers because of some licensing issue with the music. Really? Hold on. Just curious. Okay, let's see. There was the driver, what was it? Los Angeles? Or, hold on. Reception, blah, 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 blah. Hold on. Oh, wait, no, that's the driver. Right, yeah, but anyway. It was a single-player game? Are you shitting me? They took it away? Okay, let's see. Driver, series, Wikipedia. Is it this one? No, I don't think it was. That's a little old. But anyway. Driver San Francisco. Just curious. Driver San Francisco sequel. Oh, here we are. It's been 8 years since Driver San Francisco is delisted from all digital storefronts. The bummer is that actually looks like a fun game. Oh well.
Would end, and many of these games were available for 5 to 10 years before they were sunset.
Giving me notice that you're taking away what I bought and paid for does not make it okay.
This is a question of consumer satisfaction, not consumer protection.
I want you to take the analogy I'm about to put out there and follow me all the way through and tell me if this makes sense. All right? Her reasoning that you can have a video game for 5 to 10 years and then take it away, and just because you give notice, it's okay. Imagine if you're in an intimate moment with your partner. Okay? You're using protection. You now get notice in that 15 to 30 seconds. They're going to be taking off that protection. Does that make it okay just because they gave you a notice? You tell me what you think about that analogy, but that's kind of where my head goes with it.
Finally, compliance options in this bill raise serious safety and legal concerns. Where compliance is impossible, this bill is going to require refunds that bear no relationship to the years of entertainment that the consumer may have received. Whether they played the game for 10 years or 20 years, we would still have to provide them a refund.
You better finish in 15 seconds, boy. Exactly.
Yes, you would. Maybe that would get you to stop taking it away from people.
And if we can't comply with the...
No, it doesn't do that. It requires that you provide a refund only if you are unwilling to make available what is necessary to allow people to continue playing the game.
That's it? That's the only requirement? That seems sensible. Like, and here's the model. This model already exists. You've seen me bring this up multiple times. So there's a game series that is one of my all-time favorite game series called Tribes. Star Siege Tribes. Tribes 1 and Tribes 2. Now, Tribes 2 is still playable today. So what happened was when, what was it, Tribes Ascend? Tribes Vengeance? One of the newer Tribes games came out a few years after this. And as part of the promotion, they released all the game files finally for free. All the latest patches and everything. All right. Then Dynamics or Sierra Studios, I forgot which one actually was responsible for maintaining the game. I think it was Sierra Studios. But anyway, they announced they would eventually be sunsetting the master servers. So, Tribes, for you to understand, even though you could all run your own independent server, they still had to report into a centralized service that you log into. But Tribes was not hosting the game servers themselves, just a list of all those servers, if that makes sense. So you needed to get those servers patched so that you could then pull the list of computers. So then the community came out with the Tribes Next patch. And now you can download the entire Tribes 2 game right here. All right? You download the patch, and then you install the game, install the patch, and you're good to go. In fact, it even works on Linux. I haven't launched this in a few months, so it may or may not work. But the point being, we've played this on stream in the past. Okay? Thanks, Edition Search, because you found your live a year ago, and Linux got more game support nowadays. I love it. Yeah. But the point being is what I'm talking about here is this framework for what developers can do to be compliant with the California law for stop killing games is such a fucking low bar. And don't tell me that companies can't do it, because it's been done. Dynamic Studio and Sierra Studios don't exist anymore as far as I know. But Tribes 2 is still playable. And for anyone that, wants to, get it installed on Linux, it's as simple as you fire up Lutris, and then I'll do it right here. Or search the site. We'll type Tribes 2. I think that's why I may have removed it on accident and the icon was still there. So you can see, base game, yep, okay, so we can install that. Continue. You can download or grab the file. Install. It's going to grab everything for me. This model already exists. So why do these game companies have to lie? The bar is in fucking hell for these companies to do the bare minimum. We're not asking you to keep running our servers perpetually. We're not asking you to make sure all that, just any part that requires it to be online. Just make available to us all the software. Give us the tools. Like hell, Tribes 2 did mods back in the day. There are still mod packs you can grab. In fact, this download here is going to download all the mod packs and install them. So we'll have all the maps for Tribes 2 out the gate. So you can see right now, it's grabbing everything. It's pulling the latest Proton. It's, setting it all up. The bar is in hell. You don't need single-player games to have internet connectivity, and if they require internet connectivity, we need to have a reasoning for that and a way for the community to continue the project about. What is the game about? Oh, this is a full... this is one of the first really massive multiplayer games. When I say massive multiplayer, like Call of Duty is a little bitch in terms of how big the team sizes can be here. The servers in Tribes 2 can have up to 255 players. I have literally seen 100 on 100 matches in massive map packs. Not that I would recommend it. The average gameplay would be like 16 to 32 versus 16 to 32. Okay, so you can see I can grab all of the packs over here. And... Alright. Yeah, this is going to install all the other map packs and everything. And then, boom, install. Look at this installer. This is literally using the original Tribes 2 installer in a customized format. The developers left all this for us. We just had to piece together the little bits to get everything working online again. And... Yep. There we go. Install Tribes next. Preview. Extracting the patch, just like we talked about. Installation's completed. And then... Now... Boom! We now have a video game that is older than a lot of you Gen Z frickers playing right now. Look at this. And I'm going to back out for a second. I got my account over here. I'm going to see. I should be able to log back into it. Hold on. Let me remember my password. I know it was something stupid. There we go. So, when I click it, you have to grab your credentials to retrieve the account. So they modify the login menu here. And then, you see? I'm now in. I now can see all the game servers here. This game is what, 2000s? Like early 2000s? Okay? There are people right now in some servers. So you can see they have some bots. So we have the Triumph. Yeah, Triumph rules. Renegades rules, Classic rules. We don't have any like Ultra XL or like the stuff that I actually used to want to do, which is why I kind of stopped playing. I'll eventually do a Tribes 2 server. But you see how big these servers are? 60 players can be in this server. And there's 50 bots and 5 users. So we can go over here. And you saw in a mere few seconds. I now have a 20-plus-year-old game. The game studios do not exist anymore. You saw me install this game using community-made patches, grab all the mod packs, and install everything on Linux. This process works for Windows too. And you see, we're now loading in. You got your little, MOTD. And there we are. We're now in... This is not Katabatik. Yeah. And now we are just jetting along. This is not the best map that I could have demoed this in. Okay, now there we go. Let's go ski. Oh, wait, this is not a ski map. Damn it! This is a map I have to go get a damn vehicle. Yeah, Tribes was like Battlefield before Battlefield. Yeah, like the kids these days really don't know what they missed out with these kind of games. So, like, alright, hold on. God damn it. Let's go get me a Shrike. I played this game so much when I was little, I remember everything. Oh, I really boned myself there. Damn it. But this is the bare minimum, basically, as you get to understand for stop killing games, okay? You saw, I installed the game in 2 to 3 minutes. The studio doesn't exist anymore. I hopped in a server. It still exists online. Why do these fucking game studios have to keep fucking lying about this shit? Just, you want to stop supporting the game? Fine. Release your damn files to the community. We'll take the rest from here, fucking Jim. Or whatever the fucking CEO's name of whatever these companies are. But the point I'm trying to make is I do not understand why these gaming companies are spending millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to lobby against stop killing games, when in fact, at the end of the day, this gives them a cost-saving, PR-boosting strategy that is a win-win situation. Okay? I want you to think about this. You now have the possibility that when a game is a few years in, or whenever they feel they're comfortable, and they're like, it's just not worth investing into the game anymore, they can say, instead of pulling the plug, we're going to make an announcement that we're killing the game off, but we're going to be releasing all the files to the community for them to organize and create their own ways to continue on the game. But we as a company could officially end support on X days. We'll release an X patch before then to allow some shift here, just like Tribes Next did. And that was a user-generated patch, by the way. And that's it. That's all you have to do. It literally costs you nothing. Yet you get a crap ton of PR. Your fan base will love you. Look at you as somebody that actually understands, respects, and loves the community. And we'll look at it as, yes, we get it. You want to move on and expense your resources onto newer and greater things. That's cool. But let us preserve this piece of history. Did you know the new execs really trash the quality of Windows? Oh yeah, it would not surprise me. GOG's been one of the companies that's been pretty good.
Options. The author has said he's willing to amend the compliance options since they would encourage moving gameplay into environments outside of publisher oversight, moderation, and security controls, which raises serious safety issues.
They're not safety issues for you to be concerned about. Tribes Next, as we showed, the studios do not exist anymore. There is no company to worry about safety. The safety and liability has now been placed upon the community. Give the community that burden. Stop making excuses for why you assholes just want to be absolutely cheap bastards that want to squander every freaking ounce of respect that we have for a company by just lying straight up about all this bunch of shit and bending over backwards. Okay, you as the studio are no longer supporting the game. Cool. That means you know as the studio are no longer liable for any of the safety or security issues. You're worried about the moderation in there? That's now the community's problem. That's not your problem anymore. That's just how it is. That's a community project. Why is it so hard for them to accept that this would actually be to their benefit? We now could talk about where we could shorten support life cycle requirements for studios. Okay, they don't want to support this game after 10 years because it's now a money pit. You now open the option for them to say, we're going to have first-party control of this for the first, 3, 4, 5 years. And then say, at year 5, we're definitely out. You could even, pre-plan with the community, we're going to have control for, the first 5 years and everything, and then we're going to work with the community to transition everything over to your control in an open-source format. There's lots of ways you can slice this that are not idealistic, but are pragmatic and realistic, that benefit all sides. Chief, did you see PlayStation going full digital? Yeah, I saw that. It's bullshit. Did Team Fortress 2 do the same thing, e.g. Community Edition? I'm not entirely sure. Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2. Oh, no, that's a Valve game. Valve has actually opened up quite a bit of their stuff. Is it on their Source Engine? Is Source Engine open? I can't remember. But yeah. And your account will be deleted if you don't play on your account for 60... What the hell? If Philip Morris can sell something as dangerous as cigarettes with the Surgeon General's notice on it, yeah?
However, continue.
You heard right to repair safety issues when they were talking about replacing a battery in a phone. Jim Farley was talking about safety issues. Somebody could kill themselves if they fix their own car. And now you're hearing about safety issues if your game is allowed to continue working. I really hope that the people that are listening, if there's ever a politician that watches this channel and sees this video, listens to this and understands it for the manipulative garbage that it is. Every single time they show up to these committee hearings and talk about how this is for your safety, it is not.
Continuing to.
Every time a politician brings up the argument of safety, regardless of what the topic is, I immediately do not take it at face value and will then further research the question, the points that they make, because politicians love to sell the idea of safety for being a reason why you should vote for them. We need to protect the children is the number one thing we hear all the time. They abuse the safety of children in order to ruin the rights of everyone else. Look at the kids, the COSA, the Kids Online Safety Act, the Kids Act here in the USA, and what they've been trying to do and everything like that.
require games to be provided indefinitely cannot be done without legal and safety issues. The other case in the analysis is The Crew, which was online for 10 years. So they did.
The Crew was the whole point of the Stop Killing Games, what kicked it off.
The other case in the analysis is The Crew, which was online for 10 years. So they did not offer refunds, but there was 3 to 5 month advance notice, if I recall. So notice and refunds are standard industry practices.
Let's argue that point here for a second. Okay. Tribes 2. Tribes 2, let me do the initial research here, 1 second. Tribes 2, I think, came out in when? 2001? I want to say 1999 for some reason. No, it was 2001. So it came out in March 29th of 2001, all right? 8 years later, 7 years and 10 months later, they completely dropped all support whatsoever. So hold on. These services have been in constant operation, safely connecting. Oh no, so they made a update in January to turn it into freeware. Yeah, so before Tribes Next came out, it was actually phased in this way. So, Tribes 2, originally released, 2001. 8 years later, Tribes Ascend, was it Tribes Ascend? There's a new Tribes game that came out, Tribes Vengeance or something like that, okay? As part of the PR stunt, they made Tribes 1 and 2 freeware. You just had to install the game and make an account. That was all you had to do. Then, Tribes 2, let's see. No, wait, yeah. Oh, I didn't know this. Motley Crue recorded a song for the game that was never released with the game. Did not know that. Okay, so here's what happened. The game was released in 2001, and then it was released as... Okay, the Torque 3D game engine, published in Sierra Online. A Linux port was okay. On November 20th, 2002. There we are. That's what I was talking about. Tribes Vengeance. So, when Tribes Vengeance came out, they made the game a freeware. Okay, so here's the timeline for the Stop Killing Games model. Like, you have to remember, I'm trying to remember things from my childhood here. Like, I was a little kid when this game came out. I was 10, okay? I was 10 playing Tribes 2. Okay, so the game came out in 2001. Then, 2004, Sierra released both the original Tribes and Tribes 2 as freeware for download. And that was the time when everyone, whether they had the copy or not, could download it and then install it on your machine. And then for several years after that, it was cool. It was a free thing. Then, November 2nd, 2008, Sierra Vivendi disabled the authentication servers required for online multiplayer and then dropped all official support. And 2 months later, the community released an unofficial patch and a replacement server, which restored all online multiplayer functionality. So this game was only officially supported for 3 years by that studio. By their very own argument, in this Louis Rossman video, The Crew, they're saying, is 10 years, and notices and refunds are standard practice. Okay? But they released enough of the code with all of this other stuff that we as a community took it on in 2009. And here I am in 2026, 15 years after, 17 years after tribes has been shut down officially. And we just played a game. 17 years. We have a model for how stop killing games can work and how game studios can be compliant with it. And like I was saying, we now open up the possibility for a win-win situation for these game studios. Sierra and Vivendi only had official support of the game for 3 years before they officially turned it to freeware. 3 years. And you're saying 10 years? I'm now giving you an argument of you now can have a game, and when you start seeing it being more of a money suck after even 1 or 2 years, you can just say, we're going to release all this stuff to the community. If you want to get it running, do these few things. We'll be decommissioning in 6 months. That's a win-win situation. The game gets handed over to the community. The community can then continue the game on in the way they see fit, and the studio can walk away with having less liability on an IP to maintain it. And in my opinion, a community project, a game that has a community that then continues on the work after the studio is more of a credit and a better marketing material for the studio than all the money they're spending to lobby on all this bullshit. I don't understand why executives do not see this. Maybe it's because these executives aren't actually fucking gamers. They are business people. Maybe if we had some actual gamers in there, they'd actually see and do shit right. That's why everyone has respect for Gabe at Valve. I don't give a fuck that that man has several yachts. I really don't, because the dude is actually, not a dick. And he actually knows what his community and what his, consumers want. I'm using TikTok Live Studio on Linux, Wine, or something. I'm using OBS. This is why pirated software's arguments are bullshit. Well, pirate software is bullshit, period. I've said this before on stream multiple times. I never cared for that dude, but not in this, F this guy. It was more I got annoyed every time he kept popping up. And I just didn't care for him. And then what I really didn't like him was when he started revealing how little he actually knew about cybersecurity and was going around portraying himself as the super amazing expert. And then eventually the truth came out, and we found out he doesn't know what he's talking about. And he didn't win the black badge at DEFCON solo. He was part of a team, from my understanding. And then there was the whole, Mr. Robot thing. Well, Mr. Robot was consulted by Jeff Moss, who is the guy that created DEFCON and Black Hat. He runs it. There's all these little things. Yeah, pirate software, the stop killing games thing on the heels of the OnlyFans drama, which I don't care about World of Warcraft. Dude, I'm gonna say it's a freaking video game, okay? Get over it. But looking into that drama, I understand why people were upset, and it was as simple as the dude made a mistake in a video game and he couldn't own his mistake in a video game. And then followed up with the stop killing games thing, and he made all these arguments with, was his name Ross Friedman, I think it was? I could be getting his name wrong. And he just kept making these arguments, and you have to understand that Pirate Software is a game developer himself, and it was actually, kind of just taking digs at him to show he doesn't know as much as he does. Yeah, and the take on VPNs, I remember that. I responded to that video. And I had people for months. And it wasn't until the Pirate Software stopped killing games shit, I stopped seeing people come into my comments with the bullshit answers of his VPN thing. Because the clarification here for anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, Pirate Software had the audacity to say that VPNs are never a security tool. Now, I've made the point that I definitely think VPNs are oversold. They're not a magic silver bullet, and people overhype them too much. I will agree to that point. But VPNs are very much a security tool in a business setting, especially. Site-to-site VPNs, a client-server model, yes. But if you're talking about a VPN in terms of the average everyday person and what they think of a VPN, they're not really that much of a security product. But yeah. Pirate Software is a Nepo baby with no real experience. He coded himself into a corner with Heartbound and now blames everyone else for it. Yeah, wasn't there like Coding Jesus that dived into his code? And I'm not much of a coder. Like, look, if you went through my GitHub, I'm not going to say it's the most amazing, flawless code ever. I'm still learning a lot. And AI definitely assisted me after I frameworked a lot of it, because, you know, like, there's just some functions I can't figure out. But I know my limitations, and Coding Jesus went through and said he did things in very inefficient ways. But yeah.
In the analysis, there's one example.
What do you think about Gen 2? I think you can go and take showers and touch grass instead, but yeah.
In a reasonable time, 10 years, maybe not so
10
much.
years, no. But standard video game retailers will also provide refunds within 14 days if you bought a game and you didn't play it and wanted to return it. So there's also that option.
And
14 days is totally fine. I'm fine with that issue. We're not arguing that. We're arguing that, no, the argument that the crew lasting 10 years and that's the standard that we want is not there. I'm asking you for the standard that we have given, and we've talked about multiple times here, which is, do I still have it up? Yeah. Tribes 2. Tribes 2, as we said, released in 2001, turned into freeware in 2004 as part of a PR campaign for the release of Tribes Vengeance. In November of 2008, the authentication servers used to access the game online were shut down. 2 months later, in January 2009, the Tribe's Next community patch was released. 17 years later, here on July 6, 2026, you saw me install the game and play the game and join a game server online that still had 10 players in that server. That, I think, is a reasonable expectation. Release the game, give it 2-3 years of support, which is far more than reasonable in a game expectation. I mean, you're talking about The Crew, which was 10 years. You're talking about Grand Theft Auto 5. How many years has Grand Theft Auto 5 been around already? Skyrim. When was Skyrim released? But yeah, like 2 to 3 years, then turn it over to the community. I think that's a reasonable compromise. And that's not saying that you have to turn it over in 2 to 3 years. It's that you are open to turning it over in 2 to 3 years. You can have that period be as long as you want. And it can be in perpetuity so long as your studio decides to actually invest the resources to maintain said features that released with the game. But the moment you're thinking of moving away from that, it should be pushed into the community and gifted to the community for us to continue on that art. That's it. I did too, is rebuttal to Coding Jesus is that it's in GML and you can't name you can't do named libraries, and I proved on video that you can with GML's own documentation. Oh, so the guy didn't even read the fucking manual. Fucking great. Yeah, no wonder the guy sucked with cybersecurity and IT. Like, I'm not gonna go around saying that I'm like some super duper hacker man, like he was trying to portray himself. I go to DEFCON. I've gone to DEFCON just like he has. It'd be cool to win a black badge with a team. But even if I did, it'd be like, yeah, I did this with my friends. It was a fun thing. Just like I do with all the other CTFs. And, a funny thing, by the way, while we're talking about pirate software. So, in DEFCON 32, I think it was? I want to say DEFCON 32. Yeah, it was DEFCON 32. So, DEFCON 32, that's when pirate software is really exploding. And Luke from the WAN show with, Linus Sebastian of Tech Tips apparently was at DEFCON. One of my friends ran into Luke and actually told Luke, because apparently Luke was taken aback by the fact that, somebody recognized him from the WAN show, but then was told by several people, yeah, we watched the WAN show actually for you, Luke. He actually started to understand, the cybersecurity community actually likes Luke. And we really rag on Linus. I will be honest there. But the point I was trying to make is that at DEFCON 32, people were making such a hullabaloo that pirate software was at DEFCON that year, all right? I kept hearing from my friends, oh yeah, they say he's over there and all that. And remember, I was like, I don't really care much for the dude. I also didn't care much about the dude. So it wasn't like I hated the dude. It was just not my cup of tea. When I saw him on video, scroll on to the next video. The only time I ever talked about him was the couple of times he had some professional opinions that I disagreed with him on, and the Stop Killing Games thing, and my couple videos. But anyway, lots of people were meeting him and saying stories about that. The following year, DEFCON 33 last year, I actually asked my friends, because this was also, I want to say a couple months after the drama started unfolding of the OnlyFans and Stop Killing Games and everything. Nobody spotted him at DEFCON 33 in my group. And you all know I have a network of people at DEFCON. There's a few dozen people. I heard nothing from them. But that was the year that I got to hang out with Deadmau5, and my friends did, and we drank with Deadmau5 while waiting in line for some talks, but we didn't know it was Deadmau5 until we actually left DEFCON. We were watching back the DEFCON media content, and they interview a whole bunch of random people, and we see, they're like, so we're here with Deadmau5, and I'm like, wait, I hung out with Deadmau5? And that was the reaction a bunch of us, my friends, all had. Because we all hung out with Deadmau5, thought it was a dude that actually just made a Deadmau5 hat and came in and wore it. But it was Deadmau5. And by the way, all he was doing when we talked to Deadmau5, he was nerding about old music equipment and digital audio workstation, flows and game development. We were talking about all just nerdy shit. We just thought he's just another dude at DEFCON. And he was another dude at DEFCON. Just happened to be Deadmau5. Anyway, continuing on.
And can you, the author, one part of the bill is around the ability to go on a community server. The author is stating that that's currently allowed right now, so long as you're. If I don't want to misunderstand what you said, as a member.
That's correct. Minecraft is currently hosted by community servers. Call of Duty community servers. So it's an option that is out there in existence here today.
Hey, I like this dude in the suit. Can we find out who this dude in the suit is? Because I want to buy him a beer.
Illegal.
Hey, Jessica.
They are not in any way affiliated with Microsoft. Microsoft for Minecraft.
Hold up.
And they are not.
It's an option that is out there in existence here today.
They're illegal, and they are not in any way affiliated with Microsoft.
She just fucking lied. This person who is representing the trade association of game developers just fucking lied about one of the most basic facts of community servers that has pre-existed the internet as we currently know it. Because most video games originally started out with community-hosted servers, not studio-hosted servers. And she just fucking said Call of Duty and Minecraft servers are illegal. Yeah, they're not affiliated with Microsoft or, Blizzard or whatever, but They are totally legal. That was one of the main driving points, is you could have your creativity.
Microsoft for Minecraft has gotten a lot of criticism because...
Okay. I'm not a gamer. This is not what I do. I've never played Minecraft in my life. The last time I got involved with games was playing Dota in 2015. But
good God, that's a while.
Where is this?
That's what I thought. The official Minecraft server software is on Microsoft.
I'm on minecraft.net/en-us/download/server. Download the Minecraft Java Edition server.
they're illegal. They're illegal.
They put you in jail right away. No trial, no nothing.
Minecraft is
I love that he added that in.
currently hosted by community servers.
Right to jail.
Call of Duty.
Right to jail, right away.
They are not in any way affiliated with Microsoft.
Believe it or not, jail.
Now, here's the thing. I'm not mad that she was able to lie. I'm mad that the vote overwhelmingly was not in favor of this bill being passed, in spite of all of this. And here's the thing that bothers me the most about all this. When we were talking about 3D printing and why this law that would require that every single 3D printer sold in the state of California should have blocking software on it that detects if it thinks you're trying to print a gun part, we said that this is impossible. This cannot be done. And we are factually correct because nobody has produced anything that has done this before. It fundamentally cannot be done.
We're not trying to scare you when we say if you pass this bill, this all goes away. But when you ask for something impossible to exist, it can't be done.
And they ignored it. They voted in favor of that stupid-ass bill anyway, in spite of a line of 254 people showing up and saying that that's not possible. Now, the ESA shows up there and says, we can't just make a video game that lasts forever. That's not technically feasible, even though we have evidence from the 70s to the present that that's totally possible.
Or as we just showed, a video game from 2001 turned into freeware in 2004, then had the servers deactivated in 2008, only to have the community release a patch 2 months later based on the freeware software. And we played that game on the community patch 17 years later.
Every single fucking game that I could think of that was made from the 70s to like 2006, 2015-ish, around that time, was playable forever. Now they're saying it's not technically feasible to have a game that's played forever. And the legislators just bought it. They're like, oh yeah, I guess they're right. You know, it's not technically feasible to do this, so I guess I'm just going to vote against it. Why is it?
This is why I hate politicians, because they don't listen to experts. I swear to God, there's probably got to be some file on me in the FBI for all the letters I've written my Congress people. Because I actually do, like, type up letters to my congressperson and my senators and governor and mayor or whoever. And I will tell them off professionally about how they're wrong. And I'm not, like, you know, doing all the crazy things. Most of my things are about right to repair, fiber access, the tech-related stuff. That's probably, I'd say, like, 99% of my ramblings.
That same standard is not applied to consumer protection. Why is it this double standard? Why is it that when people come to the California State Senate to say, listen, what you're asking for to have complete control over my device is not technically feasible. Here's a list of 200 people that agree with us. They say, figure it out anyway. That's on you. But then when the ESA says, hey, it's not technically feasible to make a game last forever, even though there's 30 to 40 years of evidence saying that that's bullshit, they agree with it. If every one of those senators was 10 years old, I would accept it. Because if you're 10 years old, you started growing up around the time that The Crew came out. You were never alive for a time period when you bought something, you owned it.
This is why we need to educate kids on the things that we did in technology, and that's why I get so pissed off at the iPad generation of kids that don't know how to use computers. I'm not pissed off at them. I'm pissed off at their parents, because their parents, you fucking failed them. You had a computer your entire life, and you didn't pass that on. It's the same anger that I have with families that speak other languages and don't pass it on. Because I'm very much upset at my mother to this day for stopping my dad from teaching me other languages. My dad growing up apparently wanted me to learn French, Arabic, Hebrew, and, of course, English. My mom apparently made fun of that shit so bad he just didn't want to do it anymore. I still, I don't speak to my mom. I haven't in a few years, if you can't tell.
Forgive the senators that voted against moving forward on this bill if they were 5 or 10 years old. But they're not. The people up here are old enough, in my opinion. All of these people up here are old enough to remember what it is like to purchase a game and not have the game taken away from you. It is fucking disgusting to me that when...
Let me see, 1 second here. Here's your problem. Demographically speaking, knowing the age range and everything, the people here, I do not think are those people to have ever played a game. Because let's remember, okay, yes, I know there are many women who game. I'm not just denying that fact. But it is a known fact in the generation that I grew up with gaming and everything that there were not nearly as many women playing games as there are today. So I just feel like there's a gut feeling telling me these people all here never really played games. This guy in the corner with the suit that talked about Minecraft servers and Call of Duty, he definitely played games. But this guy, this fucker over here with like gray hair and shit, I think he's actually in that age range that he's like too old to actually understand what we're talking about in gaming. So you have the problem of you basically have politicians that are completely out of touch with the issues of the populace because they don't share the same lived experiences that we all do. I'm just being honest with you. We need more hackers and nerds in Congress, is what I'm saying.
It is like to purchase a game and not have the game taken away from you. It is fucking disgusting to me that when consumers advocate for consumer rights and say the technology that you are asking to put in my device so that it can control me and spy on me is not feasible, they're like, who cares? Figure it out. We're going to vote for it anyway because it looks good.
AB 2047, Bauer Kahan, motion is to pass as amended to...
Okay, so this is the full board here. Looks like a different board, but yeah. This is the Senate. Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Appropriations. Aye. Weir, aye. Aye. Perez, Wiener, aye.
But when the ESA shows up there and says it's not technically feasible to make a game that lasts forever, in spite of 40 years of evidence of that being bullshit, it works! I used to get criticized a lot back in 2015, 2017, and 2018 by a lot of more traditional activists for putting the name in the title of the people that made up bullshit. Whether it was somebody talking about a magtrometer and a microwave exploding, whether it was somebody saying this is a solution in search of a problem, I always included the name of the lobbyist. And that's not because I wanted them to get harassed and doxxed or anything else, not like that, but rather because I believe that people need to feel the shame that's attached to these statements that they are making. If they're
I agree with that. I agree with that. If you are going out there and you are just blatantly lying on shit, your name should be rubber stamped on that, and everyone should know so you get named and shamed.
There needs to be, this can't be just a job, in my opinion. You tell me if you think this is crazy. It can't just be a job to show up and lie blatantly to a group of people about something that will affect 10 or 30 million people without there being some sort of shame attached to it. If I put
Yeah, you can do that. There's a job. That's totally a job. They're called politicians and lobbyists. And what are most politicians? Lawyers. You know what they say about most lawyers.
Put up a sign on the door of my business that said, "No black cats allowed." or no black people allowed, or no Jews allowed, or like no Muslims allowed, there would be a lot of shame involved in that, right? There would be societal shaming. In fact, there'd probably be a bunch of legal consequences. You can't do that, right?
Well, the legal consequences became a thing as a result of societal shaming to a point where society now views that as the moral standard. So, yeah, we need to continue on the idea of shaming, because eventually if you get society to establish a new baseline of standard of expectations, that then becomes law. In most cases.
To it. And in my opinion, there needs to be a similar type of shame attached to people who decide to go up there and make shit up to fuck over consumers. It's one thing to say, you know, I think interest rates should be higher for this reason. I think they should be lower for this reason. It's another to have an argument on how long a warranty should be legally mandated for. All this stuff, we can have disagreements, we can have passionate disagreements, but that is what the legislature is for. Yeah. When you show up and you make crap up, and legislators make decisions based on your lies, not only do I think that we should hold the legislators accountable, but you should also hold the lobbyists accountable. The reason I put the names in the title,
throw them all in the fire,
is because I wanted there to be shame associated with it. I want people to see that shit and like think, I mean, they're swiping on Tinder and go, you know what? I would have swiped right on that, but you're the person that made up a part of a microwave that doesn't exist to trick people out of right to repair. Swipe left. I'm not talking about some cancel culture-ish policing of speech kind of thing. I just believe that there should be some sort of shame attached to knowingly lying about something in order to get a six-figure income for doing nothing. This is not just a job. Your lies are fucking with millions of people. That's not okay. Just my thought. This is not okay. We have freedom of speech.
I once met a lobbyist, and I immediately just told them, with no due respect, you are some of the lowest piece of scum ever. When I found out who they lobbied for and stuff like that. Like, I do know there are lobbyists that lobby for good things, but the problem is the people that lobby for bad things often have deeper pockets. Like the Electronic Frontier Foundation, as my understanding is, they lobby for bills and stuff, but they're lobbying for things we agree with.
In the United States, freedom of speech is important because sometimes somebody may say that I'm lying about something simply because they may have different sources than I do, or we may disagree. That's why it's important that I believe that she should be able to go up there and say what she says. That doesn't mean I don't think there should be shame attached to it. If you're going to
agree.
Ownership based on bullshit,
it's also the same argument I've had to have with people, because I am definitely more of a fan of free speech, but I'm not naive to believe in absolute free speech, because that immediately falls apart when you start going into some extremes that exist. But be that as it may, what was the point he was saying?
Doesn't mean I don't think there should be shame attached.
Oh yeah, so be that as it may, like, people that think that you should be criminalized, we should be criminalizing speech, I don't agree with that, because it's a slippery slope to only having one truth. Like, you've heard me make fun of flat earthers. There's no doubt in my mind, everyone in my chat knows that I know the world is a globe. Not that I think, I know the world is a globe. Okay? But I am okay with people having the liberty and right to be able to think that the world is flat, even though they are definitively wrong. And I think legally it's okay to be wrong, and that in many ways we should be shaming those people societally. And that's what I think Louis Rossman is getting at.
If you're going to fight against ownership based on bullshit, I think...
Trying to finish this video up. I just realized the time.
I stand behind that all the way. There are lots of things that I don't do at my company. Not just because I'm not...
I just realized he has an old SUSE Linux book here. Huh.
A greedy asshole. But because my name is attached to it.
VFW, the one woman had been put in FB jail for her messages in her messenger app and didn't say anything off. Yeah, and I'm also getting banned on Facebook whenever I'm trying to make a new account. Because I don't have a Facebook account right now. Even though I'm not doing anything wrong. It's at the point where I'm having to use my connections that work at Meta to figure out what the hell's going on.
is in the name of the company. It takes...
Oh, yeah, 28 days in FBI jail. Yeah, I remember when I used to have a Facebook account, I regularly got banned for making Jewish jokes. And there was one time I got banned merely for talking about my religion, Judaism. That was fun.
It takes you 10 seconds to Google and figure out where I live. Probably 3 if you're smart. I'm accountable to the world, and I understand that. Knowing that my name is attached to my business and my reputation and the actions that I take in the world tempers me from doing stupid shit and from just making things up that are not true so I can make a few extra $100,000 a year at the expense of the concept of ownership.
I agree with him. By the way, y'all really don't know how much money I turn down every year from people that want to sponsor me. I literally had one vendor come to me and say, we'll sponsor you if you make like several pieces of content talking about our product, you know, in a positive way. And I think they offered me like $10,000, $15,000. And I said, no. I'm going to need creative freedom. You want me to work with you? That's fine. But I have to use your product, like your product, test your product.
This disgusted me. It really did. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And honestly, at this point, I'm just sick and tired of hearing about California as if it's this bastion of consumer protection, this bastion of privacy. No, it is not. No, it really isn't.
Yeah, I don't really think California is the bastion of privacy. I think they just do better than other states, but that's because the bar is in fucking hell.
She just made up a bunch of garbage that wasn't true. I have pages upon pages of shit going over how she is completely full of crap. It didn't work. With the 3D printing bill, the person who is the chair of privacy for the entire state, 30 plus 40 million people almost, is the one that is pushing forth a bill that would require your 3D printer to report every single thing that you do with it.
And at the same time, I think we have real concerns about privacy and data right now, as the chair of privacy would so well know.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, and to your point, as the chair of privacy who defends the privacy of Californians, and I believe I do.
The chair of privacy is erasing the Fourth Amendment in the state, and the arguments that work for her don't work for us. I don't believe that the California state legislature is a legislature that cares about the little guy or consumer rights. I think it's branding. And I've proven it. I've given California over 14 months to show that they give 2 shits of a fuck about any of the own laws they've passed on ownership. They don't.
Yep. They definitely don't. But it is getting late. It's almost about 11 o'clock here. So we got the U console upgraded with the Wi-Fi card. I do have the upgraded carrier coming in, so we'll have the NVMe in here soon. There's one final upgrade coming in. We're going to replace this trackball for a trackpad. And then I'm going to work on finding some better antennas for the LoRa side and yeah. I need to figure out why this is not tightened down. But, yeah. I'll have to figure that out. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. Yeah, it's my little Clockwork Pi U console. Thank you all for joining me. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me in all of my socials. The links are in my bio. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Kick, YouTube. I have a bunch of YouTube videos that I'm in the middle of editing, so hopefully in the next few weeks some more content should be pouring out. I will have a video on the U console as well I'll work on, but that is probably not coming out till after DEFCON because DEFCON is part of what I'm using to test this with. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, follow me. All the links are in the bio. Will you make a case for your Cyberduck? No, it's already in a... This is aluminum. It's already got a sturdy case. I might buy like a fabric little case to hold it in and take the antennas off, but yeah, so make sure if you haven't as well, join the Discord, join the Matrix server. We have a great community. The links are in the bio for all of that. And I love you all. stick around for the raid if you're over on Twitch. Happy hacking, and I love you all. I'll see you all Wednesday is the next confirmed stream, so that'll be July 8th. Yeah, so maybe I'll stream again tomorrow. We'll see. I'll probably be editing some videos, but love you all. Stay safe. Happy hacking. Stick around for the raid.